Hardly a milestone any government wants to talk about, but today Australia's national debt will trickle past $1 trillion. The interest bill each year is $29.5 billion to pay for this debt.
Endless spending, rising interest bills, higher taxes coming for us, while ordinary Australians struggle with the cost of living. Is this sustainable? Or are we just loading the debt onto the next generation? Labor have a spending problem. Get them gone.
G'day everyone, Colsey here. Australia's national debt has just hit $1 trillion. This isn't just a big number on a spreadsheet. This is a warning about the future costs that ordinary Australians will carry. Higher interest bills, higher taxes, and tighter constraints on what this country can actually do for its own people. Every extra dollar of debt means more interest payments. That money doesn't go to build hospitals, roads, or energy capacity. It doesn't help young people buy a home. It simply serves past spending. As the debt grows, so does the annual interest bill, leaving less room in future budgets for things that actually matter for families. The debt also constrains us nationally. When interest rates rise and global conditions tighten, governments with debt have less flexibility. They can't respond to defence needs, natural disasters, or economic shocks without either cutting services or raising taxes. That is the long-term cost of today's choices. Now let's look at where some of that money is going under the current Labor government. Spending that many Conservatives argue deliver minimal practical results for mainstream Australians while advocating for agendas that actively push against traditional Australian values. First, foreign aid. In the 2026-2027 budget, Australia's official development assistance sits at approximately $5.2 billion. That is over $5 billion a year going overseas. While some of this does support regional stability, critics point out that large portions flow through international bodies and NGOs that promote climate, gender and social agendas that do not prioritise Australia's national interest. In a time of trillion-dollar debt and a cost of living pressures at home, many Australians ask whether this level of spending is justified. Now at home, taxpayer money is flowing in large volumes to domestic advocacy groups and organisations that push progressive, minority-focused and what many might call woke priorities. A recent Institute of Public Affairs analysis examined 100 selected charities and pressure groups. Over 5 years, from 2020 to 2025, these organisations received $2.24 billion in combined state and federal funding. Annual funding rose roughly 60% in those 5 years. The breakdown is revealing. Around $1.04 billion went to diversity and multiculturalism advocacy, roughly $622 million to public health and nanny state style advocacy, about $170 million to environmental advocacy groups, nearly $97 million to Indigenous co-governance and self-determination advocacy, and over $300 million to lawfare and welfare state advocacy. These groups often lobby government, run campaigns and produce material that frames mainstream Australian culture, energy policy, free speech and traditional family structures in a negative light. In other words, taxpayers are funding organisations that then turn around and campaign against the values held by a large portion of the same taxpayers. Examples include significant grants to multicultural peak bodies, health advocacy groups pushing lifestyle regulation, environmental organisations that litigate against resource projects, and identity-focused organisations that promote contested social theories. Conservatives argue that this spending produces little measurable improvement in practical outcomes. Better housing supply, lower energy prices, stronger borders, or improved living standards, while amplifying division and anti-conservative rhetoric. When you add the foreign aid of $5.2 billion to the hundreds of millions flowing annually to these domestic advocacy networks, the opportunity cost becomes clear. That money could be instead directed toward productive national priorities, reducing the housing shortage, building reliable energy capacity, supporting veterans, upgrading infrastructure, or simply lowering the tax burden so families keep more of what they earn. The debt clock is ticking. Interest costs will keep rising. Future governments will have less room to move, and every dollar spent on overseas programs and domestic activist organisations that deliver limited tangible results for Australians is a dollar that cannot be used to ease the constraints on the nation. Is this the path that we want to keep walking? Or is it time to demand that the government prioritise the interests of mainstream Australia first, before the debt becomes even harder to manage? That's my take. Let me know in the comments what you think. Thanks for watching, and if this resonated with you, hit like, subscribe for more straight talk, and I'll catch you on the next one. Cheers.